All right, we're back. Okay, we're doing COMP228 lesson 9 part 4. We're getting into JavaFX. I'm not going to finish JavaFX today only because of time, but I want to start it off with you guys, and then we'll finish off next week alongside with the intro to JDBC. All right, which we're going to start off next week, I believe. Remember, next week is week 10. The week after that is week 11, when we have a little test that I'm going to run. Okay, so I'll test you guys on some of this stuff. So let's say it's good to keep you guys sharp. Okay, all right. So a couple things we need to do for this one. Let's pull up my little unfinished PowerPoint that I want to kind of pull up so we can look at it. So we're talking about this other GUI, right? First we talked about the first GUI, which is this old swing stuff. And it's really not the future of Java GUI. This is the future, this JavaFX stuff, right? It reminds me a lot when I first did Windows Forms, right? And you know, making Metro apps for Windows, right? When it first came up with Windows 8, right? And now the whole tile app thing, it reminds me a lot of that. It also reminds me a lot of Android. Once you learn how to program in JavaFX, then you know some of the same controls that you learn are the same ones we use in Android. Okay. So in this lesson, so split over a couple weeks, we're going to talk about JavaFX UIs. We're going to talk about something called SeeBuilder, which we're going to use just like we did Windows Builder. We're going to add SeeBuilder. Unfortunately for us, and I'll tell you right now, Eclipse and SeeBuilder, they don't like each other too much, right? And we're going to see how that plays. Whereas NetBeans and SeeBuilder works great. They're going to use something called fxml files, which is almost like a FX XML. So that's what they kind of make. It's an XML type file that describes the scenes that contain labels and image views and so on. And each scene, as an example, is a screen. Isn't it interesting how they're using scenes, right? Like almost like game scenes or movie scenes, right? So Java is kind of moved into the future with this one, right? Because they've kind of they're using the proper verbiage, if you will. They're doing, you know, they've got the right idea around it, and it's going to be a little bit more, you're going to notice how it's very close to other things you've seen. Okay, so let's talk about graphic user interfaces again, the GUI. You have GUI components, sometimes called controls or widgets across different operating systems. So Microsoft calls them controls, right? So different apps with consistent kind of look and feel is what JavaFX is all around, right? Just like it is for Swing, but even more so. Right, so when you made your little app for me for this, you know, assignment number 4, you know, you were working on, Aaron was working on stuff with, you know, trying to make it look good across all operating systems. Well, JavaFX does it even more like that. So we'll see how that works. Okay, so again, SeeBuilder is a standalone JavaFX UI. It's a visual layout component that you can use to build, just like Windows Builder. So if you looked at Windows Builder before, you see this little pull-down menu, and then you can launch different things. Neat, right? But SeeBuilder takes it to the next level, right? And we're going to see how there's a disconnect there. And I want you guys, there's a bit of an install we're going to do in a second. So I want you to check this out. Okay, so again, 2 things. It generates fxml, right? Vocabulary, right? This vocabulary that it kind of links back to the code. We'll talk about how it does that. And the fxml is almost like it describes a map. It's a map of all of our controls. Where are they on the system, right? So there's 3 pieces of code that you get. You get something called the fxml, which is almost like a manifest of where all the controls are going to be placed. And then you have a controller, right? The whole model view controller idea, right? And the controller piece takes care of things like all your event system. The event system, and all the coding happens on the controller side. So when your fxml, you describe your UI. On the coding side, you do everything in the controller. All right. So it's not like you do it how we do it now with Java. Java, everything is all mashed up together. The UI and the controller are one, right? And this way, you've separated concerns a little bit. So you've got your view. You take care of your scene on one kind of file. And then you have your controller on a Java file. And if we're going to look at what a typical UI window looks like, there's some different naming that we use for everything, right? So one of them is that each of these objects here is known, the window itself is known as the stage. Okay, so that's one of the things. So from a terminology perspective, if I was going to test you week 11, and if I asked you about JavaFX and I said, what's the stage? So I mean, it's the whole window itself, right? The root node, there's something called a root node that is where the stage is inside the stage, right? And houses, it's a container that houses other nodes. Each component then is a node. Some of them contain other nodes, and then if they contain other nodes, they're considered a container, right? So it's very straightforward in that way, okay? And it's kind of listed right here. So again, the window in which JavaFX apps UI is displayed is known as the stage, and this JavaFX stage package is where it comes from. The stage contains one scene that defines the UI as a scene graph. We'll talk about that later on, which is like a tree structure. It's a hierarchy, right? So a hierarchy, whether you're doing it in Unity or whether you're doing it this, whether you have a hierarchy in Android, iOS, it's all the same. The inspector, call it the control list, you know, whatever you want to call it. You know, the property inspectors, they're all the same things. They look at a hierarchy of control objects and nodes, if you will, and it's in a tree structure. So again, the scene itself is an instance of class scene, right? And again, the scene, which is part of the stage, you know, keeps track of the controls, the shapes, images, video, all kinds of other stuff. Each visual element in the scene graph is a node, so it's not a component anymore. We have to call them nodes, right? And which defines common attributes and behaviors for all nodes in the scene graph. So the scene graph itself, again, is this hierarchy tree. When I say scene graph, right, you need to know what that is. The first node in the scene graph is known as the root node. Okay, first node. So some new vocabulary, some new glossary of terms, if you will. Nodes that have children are typically called layout containers, right? If you contain stuff, then you're a container, right? If I have stuff inside myself, I'm a container. I contain stuff. By the way, we're all containers, humans. We contain other things. We contain organs. We contain blood. You know, there's all kinds of stuff we have inside of ourselves. Also microorganisms. When the user interacts with a control, it generates an event, all right? So the event is dispatched, right? That's what ends up happening. It's a message. Events are always messages. Think about them as that. So I send a message when I interact with my control, if you will. This interaction generates a message that gets sent or dispatched, if you will. When I say sent, it's dispatched from the message emitter, which is going to be the control, to the message receiver, which is going to be the event handler, right? The listener itself is part of the control. The listener takes, you know, so it's almost like the middleware for the control, right? So here's the control. So let's say Ravina's the control, all right? And if I click on Ravina, right, she's going to dispatch a message to the event listener. The event listener is listening for any kind of message. The listener is going to take it and say, I'm going to redirect it to Aaron. Right? Aaron's the handler. He's my handler. Right? I'm the spy. You're my handler, right? And that's how it goes. It kind of, the messaging happens that way. The handler sends a message back to a dispatch back to the listener that says, got it, right? And it also creates this controls what's supposed to happen when, you know, this event takes place. Okay, so one of the things we want to build tonight is this welcome app. That's the one thing that we want to make. And if you look at it, there's a label component or node. There's an image view component or node. And the image view, by the way, it's the exact same name as we use in Android. So once you learn JavaFX labels and image views and text views and all these, they're all going to have views at the end of them, because they are, in effect, a node. And these nodes also can be considered containers of themselves on their own, because they do contain other properties and so on. So here's how we do it. Here are the setup instructions for Eclipse. So let's do this. So we want to go to Help, Install New Software. And this will display the Install dialog window. You're going to click Add, like we normally do. And we're going to put the new source is xtext. And I'm going to give you the link right now. So let me go into that link. This is the link here. I'm going to share this with you, but it's pretty long. So let's just go in here and fire it up. So I'm going to go into this, and maybe you can see it a little bit more clearly if I go here. So it's www.eclipse.org/efxclipse/install.html # for the lazy, which is I use the for the lazy version, right? I'm not someone who's going to make you know, Eclipse happen for you know, for people who are, you know, who want to work too hard. So this is where it is. This is the link. I'm not sure if this link is better or more clear, or you want me to go to this one here. Which one's better? This is the one. This is for the lazy, right? But if you notice, it's cut off. Site. Let's go back. For the lazy, yeah. If I go back to this one, it's for the lazy. And if there's two little links here, look, there's one link, right? That is the actual EF Eclipse, and the other one on this side is the dependency. And this is the one I'm talking about here. This dependency right here is the one that I need to add first. So that goes back to here. I'm sorry, this one. This is the dependency that we need first. And this is the one you're going to add in. So if I was to do this with Eclipse, I would go to Help. I would go to Install New Software, right? And then I would go to Add, like this. And then I would take that link, which is this link right here. I would copy it, and I would put it inside this. And I would name this X text and press OK. When I do that, you know, if you notice now I have that in my list. Here's X text, right? All in one releases. You want to include only the one that says X text. There's going to be, when it says pending up here, it's going to say a bunch of different things. X text, extend, a bunch of other stuff. All you need is X text. Don't install anything else. Anything that's required by X text will be installed along with it. Because there's a lot of other packages that come along with it. You don't need the other ones. All right, so that's what you do. This is the window that you get to. Right, so again, you go to Help, Install New Software, and you take that link from here, from this, and I'm going to make this big so you guys can see the link a little bit more, which is this link right here, X download Eclipse modeling TMF X text updates composite releases, this one. Take this big link right here and put it in. Yeah, IntelliJ has it already in? Yeah. SeeBuilder? Yeah, it takes some time sometimes. I have to do it a couple times, right? This is the default that you would have. And I would love to recommend you use IntelliJ, but you know, not everyone has access to that. Although it is free for students.
They have a free community edition.
Yeah, they also have free. If you're a student, you can get the free thing for 3 years. I think it is. Right? Huh? Is it 1 year? Okay. Okay, so that's the link. So this is the first piece. X text is the first requirement. Okay. After you get this one, you have to download and install this next one, which is EF Eclipse. F Eclipse basically is what it is. Right? And I'm just going to make this a little smaller so you can see what it looks like. It's right here. HTTP download.eclipse.org EFX Eclipse updates-released /2.1.0/site. Okay, so that's the link for that one. Can't install this one, EF Eclipse, until you download this one, or else you won't have the dependencies in place to do it right. You could download the latest release, the pre-packaged version of Eclipse, another version if you're really interested, by clicking this pre-packaged version right here. Notice that if I click this, it takes me to the pre-packaged version of Eclipse 4.5 SDK, right? And you can download one that's pre-packaged with this EF Eclipse tool built in. So this is for the ambitious, for those who'd like to assemble their own EF Eclipse installation based on Eclipse 4.5x. We offer an installation guideline which helps you get started. And then here's for the lazy, and I'm using the one for the lazy, right? Because that's just a little easier. And there's a pre-configured one right here. You can see that there's all-in-one downloads you can go to if you go to this site. And the site that I'm on, by the way, is www.eclipse.org EFXClipse /install.html #4-the-lazy. And if you click pre-configured ones like this distribution, you can download a new version of Eclipse that includes EF Eclipse, Extend, Xtext, version control plugins like Git and SVN and Mercurial, and all kinds of other stuff that it has built in. If I look at the details, these are all the things you get: egit, subclips, you know, a bunch of other stuff. Find bugs and ecliptical software, declarative annotation service, all kinds of stuff, and you can download it for both Windows OS X and Linux. So you're pretty good from that perspective. So it's kind of a bundled version if you want to do it that way. If you really want to be lazy, okay. If you don't, though, and if you want to actually do things like an add-on for a you know, current running version of Eclipse, like the ones we have, we want to click this one, and we want to add these two. When I first do this one here, this X text, and then the version for the Eclipse download for JavaFX. Let me know when you guys are done. You guys almost done? Ravina? No? How about you guys? You guys almost done? All right, so once you get these two going, there's one more you have to do, and if in the PowerPoint it tells me what I need, which I'm going to put the PowerPoint up soon, but this is what you need here for it's being recorded. So now that you have these two pieces, when you get them, you need to download and install SeeBuilder, right? SeeBuilder is actually a standalone program that runs on its own. I'm going to show you what kind of a preview of what it looks like. I'll bring it up in my applications. I'll go to SeeBuilder. There's two versions of it that I want to talk about with you. One of them is called, by itself, SeeBuilder. This is the newer version, right? SeeBuilder. And we're going to talk about the new version and what that does. And there's also another one that got added in called JavaFX SeeBuilder 2. Let me double click on that and see what it looks like. So this is what SeeBuilder looks like from kind of its default. And this isn't linked to anything, by the way. This is just kind of SeeBuilder on its own, right? The whole thing, it's a big window that looks like this, right? Now this is the old version. I want you to tell me, what does it look, how is it different from the new version? So here's the old version while you guys are downloading and doing all that stuff. And then the new version, SeeBuilder, it looks like this. Standalone versions, right? There we go. How's it different? It's not, is the answer. One thing that it does is it has, both of them can handle a drag and droppable control interface as a preview. So for example, let's say I want to use something like a VBox. I want to talk about a VBox. I can drag that in here and it creates you know, the shape. And like we're normally used to doing, if I want to drag in things like a button, you know, whatever, here's my controls. I have a button I can drag in, right? Normally, if you notice how the button, how the content display is left and alignment is center left, I can make it so that the alignment is center, right, for my button. And my, instead of left, it's also center. And when I do that, if I was getting, see the hierarchy, here's the scene graph, right here, the hierarchy. I can get rid of this button, right? But if I add a new one in, if I go drag the button in place, it's going to put it alongside where it's supposed to be. So the content display is left, we can put it center again, and it's going to, depending on the type of the way we set things up, the button is going to be placed in the center of the screen. Notice how also these little control handles can make my button bigger or smaller the way I feel like. So here it is. My button can be smaller or bigger. And if I double click my button, I can rename it. That's what I'm doing there. So I've got to be able to get SeeBuilder. So where do I get it from? I get it from oracle.com. This is one place. Tech Network, Java, JavaFX SeeBuilder-1x-archive-2199384.html. And that's a really long file. So what I'm going to do is, for us right now, I'm going to put all these links up on Concept Board for us, so you can get them nice and easy, right? So let's do that. So I'm going to go up on Concept Board, and I'm going to put together a new board for the people who are watching as well, so you guys have access to these things right now. Here's COMP228. I don't want that one. I want a new board for COMP228, and I'll share it with you guys on Twitter. So let's say rename this thing COMP228. Rename. And then I want to insert a document. So let's insert, not that. I want to create a text file. Let's make a sticky note, and we're going to put it in place like one of these. Here's a sticky. And then I'm going to copy and paste our files, right? And I'll make this thing as large or as I want. I can add as many stickies as I like, but let's add one in here. So let's get this one. So this is the first link, which is our X text, right? So this is this first link, right? That's our X text. And the next one is going to be the next link, which is the actual JavaFX piece itself, which is here. And the next one is going to be the SeeBuilder piece. I'm going to kind of put up here as well. You won't be able to see them unless you double click on this thing, but I'll make it bigger so we can see them all. And we'll make it like really large. There we go. And of course, we don't see them anyway. But they're inside the sticky. If you go to the sticky and you double click on it, and I'll share this thing. So we'll share it on Twitter, right? So it says share with anyone. Change, no, cancel. Let's see if I can share the link on Twitter for you guys. Looks like they've changed a couple things since last time we visited here, huh? The link, there it is. And I want to turn on publicly on Twitter. And I'm going to say, join me on Twitter on concept board, blah, 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 blah. And I'll tweet that. So if you go on my Twitter, which is at my last name, you'll see that I've tweeted that on Twitter. We can go there as well. So if I go to concept board, we can kind of work together on this one. You can get these links. Now these are the requirements for Java and Eclipse. But if you're running some other program, and we're going to talk about those in a second, right? Like for example, if I was going to run, I see some other people coming in. There's Fahim. If I was going to run some stuff on another code, like I'm going to close these ones off. I'm just going to get rid of SeeBuilder for a second. I don't want to save. So SeeBuilder allows me to build these FXML documents standalone. I don't even have to have Eclipse running, and it can make it work, right? But they also can be opened as an editor for FXML, right? So if I have something like this, if I go to developer and I have something like IntelliJ, so let's look at IntelliJ for a second. Here's IntelliJ. And I'll run this thing for a second, which should be very similar to what you have. I want to create a new project, right? And I got a new project, but I want to use a JavaFX type project. Here is the JavaFX application in IntelliJ. I click next. What's that?
Set the path to SeeBuilder.
Previous. Which path are you talking about?
When I was trying to set it up, it's saying I need a path to SeeBuilder.
Oh yes, you do. The path to SeeBuilder is going to be the one you can't set it up until you actually install SeeBuilder. It's a separate piece.
Okay. I installed JavaFX, right?
Are you doing an Eclipse or an IntelliJ?
IntelliJ.
Yeah, so here's JavaFX built in, right?
Yeah.
So let's do this together. So if I was going to do IntelliJ and I'm installing it, I click next. I'm going to call this project name something. Let's call this project name Welcome. Some welcome app that we're going to make, right? So project location, we'll just leave it as we can put it wherever we want, right? Let's leave it there for now. Click finish. So what it does, it says, I got some updates pending, but who cares? Here's my stuff. Did you know? Blah, blah. Let's close these up. And inside this thing, inside my welcome, I have my IML, my application, and in my source, I have three things: my controller, my main, and my FXML. The way I do it is if I right-click, right, I want to open this up, right? I want to open this up with my editor. If I double-click on this thing, my FXML, all I get is this, right? It doesn't allow me to use my FXML or access my FXML unless I open this up in SeeBuilder. So how do I do that? How do I open this up in another editor, right? So I can do like an open with or whatever, right? So open in browser, you know, whatever. And there's a special way of doing it with IntelliJ to open it up. Right here, you mean? Maybe I haven't set it up properly then. How did you set it up? So I didn't do anything. All I did is maybe. Let's update my version to see if you're right. I don't think so, but hey, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you're right. But the thing is, it looks very similar to what we see. Here's SeeBuilder down here. Yeah. Please configure JavaFX SeeBuilder paths. This is what so if I click path, right, I got to point to it. So where is my SeeBuilder path? Well, it's in my app. I have two SeeBuilder paths. I have one that's the JavaFX SeeBuilder, which is right here. And I'm going to click that one. It's going to find it for me, right? Now, look, SeeBuilder is incorporated in my grid, just like it normally does. Now, this is a great thing about IntelliJ. It's beautiful, right? So now, whatever I do here, I see here, just like I would normally in Window Builder. So here's my grid pane. That's the default that I have in here. And I want to remove this thing. So if I want to right-click and delete it, and I want to add in something like an anchor pane. Here's an anchor pane. I want to add in here. Here's my anchor pane. Notice that my anchor pane is now the hierarchy. I could also make it a VBox. If I put a VBox in here, right? And I could do something like edit in my, well, I don't know if I can do this in SeeBuilder, because in SeeBuilder, all I'd have to do is edit and then trim. But you can't do that here because this isn't really SeeBuilder. This is, you know, this is IntelliJ, right? So I'm not sure where it would be here in IntelliJ. But in SeeBuilder, you do the same thing. You trim it up. But let's say, for example, I have this scene that I've got in here, right? So I've kind of make it so it's a little larger. And this little piece here, I want to put in another label. So I want to click on a control, and I want to have a button that I kind of put into the VBox there. And it kind of, depending on the VBox settings on the right-hand side, I can choose my layout for this piece. So I can choose where it's going to be. Notice that and my anchor pane has different constraints I can put in that I can choose to put in for my the sides of my container. It's very, very neat the way you can do things. In my top left, instead of my top left, I want to go center. And then, of course, it crashes. I love it. I love when my stuff crashes. It's fantastic. Just teaches me lessons. Huh? It's probably crashing because I'm running that plus everything else. Let me just update that thing here. Yeah. Yeah. I think I got the community version. Can't remember. Anyways, I'll leave that for later on. But that's what it does in IntelliJ. IntelliJ has it kind of pre-bundled in here. And of course, I can't open it up because I have it. I'll open up a new project. Let me see if it's still there. Yeah. As I thought. Here's my welcome project. Let's see if it'll remember where I was. Error loading project, it says. Cannot load module JavaFX application details. I love it. It's fantastic when we run into this kind of problem, right? And you can see how I tried to load this stuff, but it just crapped out. IntelliJ, bye-bye. Okay, so I'm not sure if you guys went to concept board and had a chance to get it, but let's go back there to concept board and see if you guys have got it. So yeah, there's a couple people that were there. I saw other people in there. Has anyone had success downloading and installing it for Eclipse? Still waiting? Still waiting? You're done? Wow, you're good. How about Ravina? You good? No, you're still downloading and installing? How about Selena? Your computer died too? Well, mine crapped out, so it's okay. Selena, you done or no? I'll check. I'll check with you. All right, so if you're done, if you want to know you've done, Eclipse would have restarted a bunch of times. And for us to know how it works, to make sure that Eclipse is working, we would have this menu. We're going to go to File, New, Project. And under there, you're going to see something called the JavaFX Project. Can you see that? If you don't see JavaFX Project under File, New Project, something's wrong. You forgot something. So yeah, under JavaFX Project, right? Let's make one together. We're going to make this our Hello World project, right? Because we have to make a Hello World. Come on, right? So we're going to say my project name is going to be called Hello World, right? There it is. And there's my Hello World project. I'm going to click Next, and then Next again. And then it's going to ask us something neat. It's going to say, what kind of application do you want to make? Do you want to make a desktop application or a mobile app, right? We're going to keep a desktop app. That's what we're going to make. Our package name, we're just going to call this Hello World. The Hello World app. That's the package. Hello World app. Oops. There we go. And under language, where it says none, see this none stuff? That's not good. We want to change this to FXML. And notice how the root type, by default, we choose the root type right here. We can choose an anchor pane, a border pane, whatever, VBox, as a default. Let's choose VBox because that's the one we want to kind of start off with. Our file name, instead of being sample, that's for the file name for the FXML file, the default FXML file. We're going to call this thing, again, Hello World. And instead of sample controller, we're going to call it Hello World controller. Hello World controller. There we go. And then after that's all done, we're going to click Finish. And what this does is it sets up our little Hello World project. And underneath the source file, you have, instead of the default package now, you have a Hello World app package. That's almost like the container. And in here, we have a few different packages. We have our Hello World controller, which looks like this, empty, right? And we have a main.java file, which we need, which if you notice it says VBox, with our Hello World FXML as our resource. This doesn't change. Notice also that our scene, we create a new scene, right, where we're taking the root, which is our VBox, which is the root, and we're making it so that the scene is at 400 by 400, a square scene. And we're also getting a style sheet, because that's interesting. That's the interesting thing about FXML. You use CSS sheets for style. Now, right now, our CSS is blank, but you can add CSS. And then finally, we have a Hello World FXML, right, which looks like this. Now, for the first time when you use this thing, when you right-click and I open with SeeBuilder, it may take you and say, need to configure SeeBuilder in Eclipse. And the way to do that is you have to point it to your SeeBuilder executable, which would be, if you're using Windows, it would be the exe file. If you're using a Mac, it's the app file, the app file. That would be in your applications, right? So open the SeeBuilder file, but after you've done it the first time, you're good to go. It'll build up SeeBuilder like this. And this is exactly what we see. We have a VBox. Notice that we have a VBox here. Alignment, we don't want top left. We want it so that, let's make the VBox so it's centered for the alignment. Okay. And this is our property window. There's also the layout window. There's different windows here that are going on, right? So here's our layout window. And there's also one more. There's a code window. The code window actually allows you to do things like event handling. So drag and drop, mouse events, key downs, all kinds of stuff that you can kind of, you can put the touch events, swipe events. It does it all. There's all kinds of little events here for our, so there's three little panes that come in for this VBox, right? And it's contextual. Whatever I click here on on this hierarchy, I see something different in the properties view. Okay, let's drag and drop in, right? Drag and drop in some kind of label control, right? So we're going to go into controls, and we're going to click label, and we're going to drag and drop it into the hierarchy under the VBox. There it is. And if you notice, label appears here in the hierarchy. Now, funny enough, you don't see the VBox at all. If I put this in here as an example, you don't see that. It's actually already in. It's the root node. right? So don't worry about what this looks like right now. But you notice label is right in the middle. And then I'm going to put an image view. Let's do that. Let's get an image view. And an image view, you notice they're all views, list view, image view, all kinds of stuff except for labels. I'm going to put the image view in here as well. And notice how the label is underneath the image view. If I switch it around, the hierarchy, then my, well, that's not what I wanted. I don't want to put the image view inside the label. I want to put the label on top of the image view like that. There we go. There's our label. There's an image view. If I want to change what's in the label itself, I can say hello world. Right? Here's my hello world. I can change the font size by clicking the font. Let's make it so it's like, I don't know, 30. Notice how it stretches. Right? There's 30, hello world. And how come I can't see it all? Right? I'm in the VBox. Right? And there's my image view. Right now my image view is kind of inherited. It kind of does everything. Let's test it out. How do I test this thing out? I can actually see a preview. If I get a preview, I can show preview pane in the window, and whatever I see here is typically what I see here. Right, so this is our little preview from my FXML. Okay, notice how I haven't saved anything, I haven't changed anything, I haven't done anything. I'm doing all my testing right in here. If I want to make this box bigger, I can certainly squeeze it so it's bigger, much larger, right? And my VBox is going to swim around it. It's going to kind of grow to, to kind of be the same size. I can also change my my width and my height. Right now, my width and my height is inherited. If you notice, it's 338 by 220 by 320. Let's try this out. So if I want to make it an exact size, I can certainly go here and say fit width. I can make it so that the window is, let's say 300 by 300. Do that. So there's 300 by 300 for my window. And all I do is have a lot of control here. So this is more of what you'd be used to using, right? Not that little properties things that we had in our window builder. This is a lot more control than what we had before, right? In my image view, I don't have an image in my image view, right? So if I go to properties for my image view, I want to add an image. Now I have one. I have a little logo that I use, but you can use whatever you want, right? And I can certainly drag and drop in here, but I want to use an image that's already in my scene or in my project. So I'm going to kind of save this one. So I'm going to go Command S on the Mac or Control S on the PC. And if I exit SeeBuilder and go back here, notice how it doesn't show that anything's happened here, because what we need to do is we need to refresh, right? There is no little tab that takes us to SeeBuilder here. It's not part of it. If you notice, when I refresh, I see this stuff that I've added in. But nothing is changed in my controller. My controller, my Hello World controller, is exactly the same. There's nothing there. And in my main, nothing has changed in my main either. Everything in my main and everything in my controller is the same. The only thing that I've done with SeeBuilder is changed my UI, the way my UI is laid out, where I have a font size of 31 for my label, and my image is 300 by 300. As an example, that's all I have, and my Hello World label. That's it. This is what my FXML is looking like. It's pretty simple. If I was to try and run this thing locally, I go to my main, like I normally would go to my main, and we run this thing by clicking on Run as Java Application. And if I did everything properly, then this my Hello World would come up, and it looks quite nice actually. Notice how the window's looking nicer than it did before with Window Builder, right? I don't have an object in here. Before I let you guys go, bear with me here. But let's say, for example, I have some kind of logo I want to add in. I have a little logo that I can add in. So let's go into my desktop, and I have a logo that just says logo. And for me to access my logo, I want to put it inside my files here. So I'm going to drag and drop it inside where my package is, my Hello World app. I'm going to drag and drop it in. It says copy files or link to files. Copy it. And now I have access to my logo. This is right here. So if I go back to my SeeBuilder now for a second, and if I look at my image, and if I click onto it here, right, I want to find my logo, it's going to look in the proper location. So I'm going to go back to my workspace. I want to look in my Hello World. I want to go into my source. I want to see my package. When I click my logo.ping and press open. When I do that, bang, it kind of puts my logo in play. Right now, I want to save this. When I go back to my code in Eclipse, right, and like I said, I told you it doesn't play nice, and I right-click, double-click, and see that, I can see that that logo has been added in, that absolute URL. And when I run this thing now, I should see this come up. Looking pretty nice. So that's your intro into JavaFX. The trick is to install it properly with Eclipse, and there's 3 parts. The X text, the one for the JavaFX piece for Eclipse, and then the SeeBuilder, which is a separate piece in order for you to set it up. Okay? When we get back next week, we'll do the rest. Questions for now? All right, see you next week, and good luck on your assignment 3, which is due Friday.